All right. And we are live. Welcome to the All Star Sports Report, episode whatever this is. Um, the
13.
sports whip around this week. I think that's a pretty fitting topic of discussion. I'm your host, Gary Wells, and that is Mike Campigio over here to, I'm pointing to my left. But, anyways, we're here, we're live, and we have some things to talk about. We haven't been on here in the last couple of weeks, just we had Sabering last weekend. I didn't feel like doing a show come Sunday night. I was over it. So, um, but we are here, and we might not talk about Sabering. Let's not. Dude. We'll treat
Let's
it
just
like
not.
let's not. It was not a good time at Sebring on this. And I think I don't speak for people, but I feel like I could speak for our entire team on that one. It's not a good time. And probably Hutch Sport Phantom Race. I know they got two P2s. Shout out to them. I know it was not the most fun time either for that entire group. So, but I digress. We're here. We're talking about men's basketball for NCAA, women's NCAA basketball. We've got baseball opening week this week. We'll talk about that. We've got NBA playoffs happening here soon. They only got about 7 games left in their regular season, so about a week worth of play. MLB, yeah, we already talked about that. NHL is what I meant to bring up next. They've got their playoffs happening here in about a week or two, so a lot of things happen in the sports world as we get into the month of April. We've got, that. We've got Formula One news this week with Red Bull's 2 teams switching drivers. Yes, I'm going to call it what it is. You don't have to tell me that it's Racing Bulls and Red Bull. Stop bullying me. Okay. We know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Austin Hill backed into a win at Martinsville today, and I will bring that same energy if Alex Bowman does that again. But we're here. We're here to have fun. We've got the truck race to talk about last night as well. Thought that was a pretty okay race. Honestly, probably better than the Xfinity race.
Based off what I saw, yeah, just a little bit. And that's barely you could ever say that too.
Yeah. The Xfinity race looked like the truck race championship race from a couple years today, and it's only like race 5 of the season. So we'll have to talk about that and the Cup race. Give you a little preview of that tomorrow. IndyCar, they had Thermal Club. It was caution free. It was boring.
Do you want to talk about the Fox Sports issue?
The broadcast went out, and they lost half their viewers from race 1 to race 2.
Yeah, that's a big drop off.
But I don't think it's a Fox problem.
I think it's just a scheduling problem.
I think it's a scheduling problem. And we've been on that tangent. We've had podcasts upon podcasts between back when this was off in turn 1 with Joe Hutchings and myself. We've talked about the endless scheduling issues that IndyCar has had and how inept they are over the years. So I'm exhausted. I don't want to go over it.
Yep.
We know what IndyCar needs to do. It needs to be 20 races. It needs to be 10 ovals, 10 road courses. And I don't care how you do the road courses. I don't care if it's 5 street circuits and 5, road courses. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how you do the 10 ovals. I don't care if it's 5 super speedways and 5 short tracks. I don't care. But that's how the schedule needs to be. It needs to be 20 races, 10 ovals, 10 road courses, and call it a day.
Yeah.
But they like doing their 17 race schedule, and they like doing their BS doubleheaders, and they like what they're doing, and taking 6 weeks off in between their first and second race, and losing all the momentum that they had from Long Beach to this crappy race in Thermal Club. And the feed went out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Excusable. There were IndyCar fans pissed they had to watch NASCAR, which it is what it is. I'm sure Joe was livid, and I would be somewhere smiling on the inside because I think it's hilarious. Only IndyCar would have the problem that they had. Only IMS Productions would have the problem that they had last week at Thermal Club.
I'm just not sold. I'm just not sold entirely on Thermal as itself, like the track itself. I'm just not entirely sold on it.
It's a racetrack in the middle of a freaking neighborhood. You think about it as a country club, but for motorsports. That's what Thermal Club is. Were there even fans, or they just race in front of the rich people? Like, it just seemed like that is one of those races where you race in front of rich people.
Yeah.
They didn't really have stands, from what I could tell.
Now people were like standing on the edge of houses and all that stuff, and yeah,
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they should have just made it a $1 million race like they did last year.
You mean $500,000 challenge?
Minus
Don't
taxes.
get me
Yep.
started on that.
Yeah. Minus taxes.
$500,000 challenge. 500,000. Not a million. Million's total purse, Mike.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
$1 million challenge my ass. Anyways, don't get me started on that. I think Joe and I had a whole show on that last year of how it was the $500,000 challenge. $1 million. You know, we're here to have fun.
I mean, good for Alex Palou though. Even though I don't like the guy, but 2 wins in a row to start the season. Good for him.
You have a beef with Alex Palou like you have a beef with Austin Hill, and I think it's just the funniest thing ever. You know,
Yes, I do.
that contract flop that happened 2 years ago. It's 2 years ago. It's history. He's literally better than Scott Dixon right now. Right now, just want to say right now he is better than Scott Dixon.
And here come the comments from the comment section. Just gonna rip.
Oh, I know,
Rip
but
into that.
I'm spitting facts, y'all. If you don't like the facts, get out. I mean that's just the way it is. Scott Dixon is a great champion. He is a great race car driver. Can't win Indianapolis. Backed into a win in Indianapolis in 08. I'm just kidding. But Dixon cannot get out of his own way and win a race right now. Can't do it. But I love Scott Dixon. I think he's definitely top 3 all time. I mean, you throw AJ in there because AJ has the most championships. I think he has 7. Or he might be tied with Dixon 6. Regardless, multiple time champion, multiple, Indy 500 winner. I know Scott Dixon's that, but we've seen Scott be a multiple time pole winner. He's led all these laps. He's kind of like the Dale Earnhardt in that sense. When it comes to Indianapolis, how Dale Earnhardt was to Daytona, where Dale could just lead all those laps, win all those iRock races, win all those Xfinity races, win all the 400s in the world. I mean, what Scott Dixon is doing at IMS is similar to what Dale Earnhardt was doing from the 80s and 90s. Just absolutely terrorizes the competition. Just late in the race, middle of the race, beginning of the race, doesn't matter. There's bad luck for the 9 car, and the 9 car doesn't win. Is what it is.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard for a lot of Scott Dixon fans to digest that. But, I mean,
Well, I felt bad for McLaren too on that race on thermal because they had that race won, at least between Award and Lundgaard. I thought they had the perfect strategy, and then they out-strategized themselves.
Yeah, there it is. No, and if you really want to race out west that early in the year, want to go to a road course in California. There's this place called Sonoma, California. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I've heard of it. And it's supposed to be really green. It's supposed to be really green
that
too.
time of year,
Yeah.
Might want to go back to Sonoma. Just say.
Or go to Phoenix.
By the way, hi Connor. I see your comment. But yes, we've got a lot to talk about. But I guess we already started talking about you see what Robinson said?
No, I did not.
He said Dixon is starting to look kind of washed in IndyCar.
Oh, that's fighting words.
Oh, I didn't say that. I did not. I just want to go on record and
words.
say that I did not say that. That was Mike Wayne Robinson, everybody. Mike Wayne Robinson on Facebook. Just put that out there for all the world to see. It was not me. It was not me. I did not say it. I kind of was. I was dancing around it, but I did not say it. I have a lot of respect for Scott Dixon.
And yeah, we got Long Beach coming up for
Long Beach coming up. That should be a good race. Facts don't care about feelings. Yeah, you're right.
You're right.
A little out of line, but you're right. But no, yeah, Long Beach coming up. When is it?
April 13th, the Sunday of the Masters, I believe.
You would IndyCar. You would.
Palm Sunday. Enjoying Palm Sunday, watching the Masters and
Hey, Palm Sunday, I'm going to be running sound at church. I'm going to go home. I'm going to watch the Masters. I'll watch IndyCar, I guess, and whatever NASCAR race is on. I think it's Darlington. No, Bristol.
Bristol.
Bristol. IndyCar. You know, help yourself. Go back to Texas, please. And I'm not talking about go to Arlington, Texas. And have your little road course race. Go to Texas Motor Speed. Just do it. It's a good time.
Because I mean, the last race that they ran there at Texas, that thing was fantastic. I loved that race.
Or go to Kentucky. Kentucky's a good one too. It's currently a car lot for Ford apparently right now, so I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, Long Beach coming up. Excuse me. Long Beach coming up should be a good time. This should be a good race. It always puts on a great show.
Yeah, sharing the weekend with IMSA too. That'll be good back-to-back days.
The last few years, IMSA they put on a decent race there too. I think it's one of their sprint races. I think it's 2 hours or 40 minutes.
I believe so.
They're here in a couple weeks, so they get one driver change and pretty simple, straightforward race for them. So the hairpin to me there, the last corner is always so fascinating. But
I like the fountain one. The
fountain corner is fun too. I always want to see somebody in the actual. Just do it one time. Just up the roundabout and just land right in the fountain. We've gotten close. We've gotten very close. And we need to have Jack Harvey in the race so he can land in the fountain for us.
You know, as soon as somebody does that, they're going to put up a wall.
Or they're just going to redesign the entire track and avoid that section entirely.
Yep. Yep. That's it.
Because apparently back in the day, they used to not go left for their first corner. They used to go right.
Okay.
And Long Beach has some pretty decent elevation changes. You know, Long Beach actually, they go back 70s and 80s. They had Formula One there. And Long Beach is not flat by any means.
No.
They do have some elevation changes there. And they used to like go uphill and all kinds of crap. The Formula One days and a little bit of the early kart days. But yeah, kart's taken over that race since the 80s. And it really is. I mean, it is IndyCar's second biggest race on the schedule. That's not the Indy 500. I think it's. I think it really is. You have the Indy 500. You have Long Beach. You could arguably say St. Pete is pretty big. Maybe third or fourth biggest race on the schedule. With Milwaukee being back, you can make a conversation for that race being a huge deal. I think they just need more Midwest races. We got a lot. We got a couple of mile and a halves here in the Midwest that we're not using.
Yep.
And by we, I mean all of motorsports. Even NASCAR is using them.
Yep.
Like you can go to this cool place called Chicagoland Speedway. Pretty dope. But bring back Belle Isle.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the new Detroit course either.
You could. I don't know if they're going to. And that's just simply a cost-effective move for Roger Penske because he literally owns that complex they race at.
Well, then they'll want to be down there where all the big people are. Ford, GM, they want to be right down there by all those guys. Right by those buildings, you know?
Go. Oh, sorry. Inappropriate for the podcast. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think both races are fine. I do think the downtown Detroit one's a little bit more of a wreckfest than Belle Isle for sure. Honestly, I'm okay with it. When it comes to street races, it feels like they're all kind of the same anymore. They're just a wreckfest, and you have a winner. I mean, look at St. Pete, for example. Friggin' Will Power just willing himself through traffic. Literally. Willing himself through traffic. First lap of the race. Just first lap, turn 4. Oh, I'm just going to punt you here. Bye. Will, you have a brake pedal.
That was almost a replay last year's first lap at St. Petersburg when we had, Stingray Rob go 50 feet in the air?
Oh, yeah, we did. He was a money ramp that day. But,
he money ramped twice last year at Iowa and at St. Pete.
That's right. He had some laps at Indy this year, but I've heard it's because he's an idiot and, you know, how we talk about sometimes in our iRacing that sometimes you just got to let the idiots get to the front and lead the show so they can feel good about themselves. That's what I heard kind of similar was with Stingray Rob. in the
Yeah.
Indy 500. But who could say you led laps at the Indy 500? Not very many people, so
No.
take it, I guess. Um, but yeah, IndyCar's got a scheduling problem. We know this. We've talked about it. I don't really need to say it again. If you just fix your schedule, you won't lose all of your momentum from race 1 to race 2. I mean, I've even heard some IndyCar fans that are trying to get back into the sports. They had stopped watching for a while since Dan Weldon died. This was their first year kind of getting back into it since the passing of Dan. And they even said, I forgot Thermal Club was going on. They just, after race 1, it's just, it's gone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just nothing you can do about it. So literally, if they fix that 6-week break and even just put, I get it if you don't want to race every week, but if you want to do like every other week, so you don't lose too much momentum, like I think what Formula One has got going on right now, I think is great.
Yeah, they ran the first 2 weeks, and then they're off a week, and then they're racing next week.
Right, like something like that. Now, obviously, like in IndyCar, NASCAR, and well, not really IMSA. IMSA's schedule's a little weird, but IndyCar and NASCAR, you don't get a summer break like what Formula One does. Formula One, they take like, what's 3 or 4 weeks off in the middle of summer.
Yep.
Yeah. Our series over here in America, they don't do it.
No.
And honestly, NASCAR really can't afford to do it because they have 38 races a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, now, I will say when Dale Earnhardt won one of his championships, it was 22 races on the schedule. Now, do I think that NASCAR could trim their schedule back to 30 races? I don't know if I can answer that. I think they should. Because I think if you end the season, end of September, as opposed to early November, sure, it's a longer off season, but you're not competing with the NFL, and you're not. I guess it's the main thing, right? When it comes to playoffs, you're competing with the NFL. You wouldn't have to compete with the NFL if you end by the end of September. Yes, I know the NFL is kind of starting, but if you think about it, if we get into October, November, we're in our playoffs. The NFL's in full swing. They're kind of week 8, week 9. They're talking about their playoffs.
You have baseball going on. Their playoffs are in October. Basketball and hockey start in October.
Well, and I think it's kind of funny that even Charles Barkley has said, why do we start in October? We should start in December. Shorten the season to 62 games. Start on Christmas.
You know?
Then when you make the Christmas games a big deal again because it's your opening week.
Yeah, because not going to lie, with Christmas Day games in the NBA, I have not paid attention to a single one of those in probably, 4 or 5 years?
I can think of longer for me, probably 10.
Well,
Maybe
now
not
with
quite
the
10, but
Well, now you have the NFL taking that Christmas Day over, and I've mostly been watching the NFL on Christmas, like this year especially.
right. It was kind of like NFL had Thanksgiving and NBA wouldn't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the NBA had Christmas and the NFL wouldn't touch it. Now, because the NBA product has been so bad the last few years, the NFL's kind of been like, hey, we got something that's a little more entertaining than 150 to 140.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. There's no defense in the NBA. I'm tired of this load management. I'm tired of all these rules to stop defensive play. Like, play defense. And you know what? You get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play a game. I get paid $50,000 a year, let's say, right? I'm getting paid $50,000 or $60,000 a year to work in customer service every day.
Well, especially if you think about
every day. Why are you taking time off?
Well,
my leg hurts.
Well, especially if you think about it too. Next year, you have NBC coming back to cover the NBA, and you have Amazon Prime coming in. Do you really think? I mean, you really think you want that bad of a product on those two networks, even because the eyes are going to be a little bit more?
You're gonna have to figure something out. You're gonna have to figure something out with the NBA. Speaking of the NBA, Oklahoma City. I mean, we don't really talk about small markets. The Pacers are playing really well right now. I love the Pacers, and I listen to them on the radio every now and again because I don't get all the games. I know probably could watch a few more, but I don't. It's kind of up their schedule sometimes. But the Pacers are interesting. They always kind of start out slow. They'll start out like 10-10, let's say, and then they really start picking it up December, January. It's like when their season really starts and gets going for them. And
You
it's
guys scored. I was gonna say they scored like what 150 points the other night on the Wizards.
162.
Damn.
Yeah, over the Wizards, I think it was.
Yeah, it was the Wizards.
I think that was a franchise record for the Pacers. I think most points in a single game. So they played really well. But what kills them to be a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, which I think that is their ceiling, they could be really, really good in the Eastern Conference if they tried, is that they didn't get off to these slow starts. The slow starts kill them every single year. Yeah, they win 50 games or 48 games, but it's like you could easily be right there with like Cleveland, Oklahoma City, winning 65 games if you try.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the only beef I have with the Pacers. Other than that, I think they're a great team. When it comes playoff time, they're in it and they're on it.
Yeah.
They're going to be a tough out. I mean, even JJ Redick said it in his post-game press conference when they beat us by 2 the other night on Tuesday. He said, "Pacers don't get enough recognition. We need to talk about the Pacers more, nationally speaking." And they are a great team, and they do. I think they deserve it. But I think what kills them is they start off so slow that they're kind of forgotten about until February, March, when they're playing at their best.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. I'm kind of speaking as we're touching the NBA right now. It's kind of speaking here's kind of what the playoff standings are looking like as we got 7 games left for everybody. Really, in the West, you have Oklahoma City at 1, Houston at 2,
and it's not even close, right? Like those are pretty much the top 2 done deal.
No. Well, Oklahoma will be the 1 seed. That's basically set in stone. They have 61 wins.
Are them and Houston the same division?
They
still do it by division, right? So they still have the top seeds.
Yeah, they still have divisions, but I'm mostly worried just about who's gonna be 1 through 8, basically.
Oh yeah, because isn't it like 1 through 4, and then you got the play-in?
It's you have 1
something like that.
You have 1 through 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10 are the play-in teams,
That's right.
basically.
That's right. Okay, sorry, continue.
So yeah, Oklahoma City's at 1, Houston's at 2, Denver at 3, the Lakers at 4, Grizzlies at 5. And speaking of the Grizzlies, they just fired their coach too.
They did. I saw that the other day. I was like, firing their coach in your playoff team? Interesting.
And
who they got hired? Doc Rivers?
I could see it. I could very well see it.
I'm just saying, Doc Rivers only gets hired when coaches get fired anymore. But anyways, continue.
6. I'm trying to see who 6 is. I can't tell who the logo is for 6.
Soda?
No, that's not. It's a weird looking logo, and I can't even tell you who it is. So I'm gonna have to do it.
Hold on. We're looking at the Western Conference.
Yeah, I can't.
Below the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
it's the Clippers. They changed the logo.
Clippers. Okay, I'm used to seeing the Clippers as a different logo, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
So Clippers at 6, Warriors 7, Timberwolves 8, Kings 9, and Dallas Mavericks are at 10. And this is what I hate.
And then you have the Suns. I would say you have the Suns. Yeah. They're 1 game out of the play-in.
They are 1 game out. But here's what I have to say about the play-in. It's so dumb. We're going to let teams with losing records have play-in. Why?
Because the NBA wanted more competition a couple years ago.
Here's what I think would help the NBA and the NFL to an extent. Okay. If you win your division, yes, you're in the playoffs. I will give you that. You're in the playoffs, and you get home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs. Okay. However, just to make the divisions important. However, the seeding should be by record.
That wouldn't be bad.
The seeding should be done by record. I don't know how you'd work that out, but the NBA could easily do that.
Yeah.
Now, I've also heard this rumor, that there's 30 teams in the NBA, right?
30, yeah, 30, 32.
I've heard get rid of all the divisions. or like the conferences, and just do your top 15, 14 teams, 16 teams, whatever it is. Do your top 16 teams. Line them up 1 to 16. And then have a tournament similar to the NCAA. I've heard that one. Which would be interesting.
It would be.
But
it would
I
be
still think you got to
interesting.
keep the East-West. It'd be like getting rid of the AFC, NFC, or getting rid of East-West for NHL. Doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be interesting if they did that for like. And the NBA
It-
would experiment with that because it's in.
Yeah. And speaking of the playoffs, as we switch kind of a little bit to the Eastern Conference, we got the Cavs at 1, Boston at 2, New York at 3, Pacers at 4, Pistons at 5, Bucks at 6, and then your playing tournaments would be the Hawks, the Magic, the Bulls, and the Miami Heat. And the Bulls have been winning a lot recently. They're trying
Yeah,
to
they're
push.
8-2 in their last 10. They played really well,
Yeah,
and
they're
that's
pushing.
the thing. I want the Bulls to be so good.
So do I.
I do, and I know you know why because you're from Chicago, but they're one of those teams where it's kind of like how do I put this? Like in the NFL, the league is just better when the Raiders are. The league is just
Mhm.
better when the Niners are contending, when the Bills are contending. Those type of teams, right?
Yep.
Like and the Patriots, for example. I know they haven't played well with the damn here in the last 5 years since Brady left, but you know, when those teams wow, that randomly came over me, sorry. When those teams are playing well, the league is in a better spot. The Bulls are kind of like that. Like
Yeah, they would fit in with Boston and LA and
they,
New
they
York.
they fit that mold. I mean, and you know, in Detroit, because I mean, when you think about the Eastern Conference in the last 30
30
years,
years.
let's say, you have New York, Boston, Detroit, and Chicago. I think those are kind of like your big four. And you could throw
And it-
Indiana in there as a fifth.
And then you can
'Cause-
throw Miami in too.
Yeah, and Miami. I mean, I wouldn't say last 30 years, maybe more like 15.
15.
Since,
Yeah.
since I got Dwayne Wade and when they had LeBron and all that.
Yep.
But yeah, if you look at the Eastern Conference, I mean, the names that you think about, and no offense to Milwaukee, but no one cares about Milwaukee. And Orlando had a little bit of a run there when they first started because they had Shaq and they had Penny Hardaway and those guys. Those were some pretty good teams they had. But when you think about the East, you think about Boston, you think about New York, you think about Indiana, Detroit, and Chicago. You really do. And then same thing with the West. The Lakers, I think, are a big deal within the last 50 years. You think about the Lakers, the Suns. Did you? I don't think anybody really knows this, but when the Suns were an expansion team, when they first joined the NBA, they actually had the highest all-time winning percentage for the longest time since they
Wow,
joined
I
the
did
league.
not know that. I did
Like
not
in
know
the
that.
60% range for most of their history.
That's impressive. I had no idea.
I don't know where they're at right now, but if you think about it, when the Suns are playing well, they're kind of like the Raiders if you think about it. Teams that you want to see do well. Dallas is another one. San Antonio for sure is another one.
Yeah.
We are missing San Antonio. They need to get their act together.
Well, Coach
and-
Popovich has been dealing with health stuff all year.
Yeah,
too.
he's had a couple strokes and he's not doing so hot.
He probably won't come back.
I don't think so. I think they need to, like, if he wants to come back, he could be GM or president, whatever. They need a new voice on the sideline there. It's been lacking for the last 3 or 4 years. You could arguably say the last 10 since Duncan retired,
Yeah.
but I think really it's been the last 4 or 5, in particular. And that team just got old and all that. And you could kind of tell that Popovich is kind of stubborn and is set in his ways, especially with how he handled LaMarcus Aldridge
And he handled Kawhi Leonard too.
and the way he handled Kawhi. He's kind of old, set in his ways, even at that time. I mean, he tried to make Aldridge a Tim Duncan, and he's not Tim Duncan. He tried to make Aldridge fit his offense when for like 12 or 15 years he played one certain way in Portland. And it's like,
Yep.
can't when they're coming out of college and they're coming out of the draft, you could do that. You could get away with that, but not today's day and age.
No. But how about the Bulls and Lakers finish though the other night? That was the
That was
most
entertaining.
that was the most
I
insane
did
thing
see
I've
the
seen.
last couple minutes there on YouTube. Saw a highlight reel. That was a really good finish that game.
It's wild. And Josh Giddey just posing over LeBron after he hit that shot. I was like, in your
That was
face, LeBron.
impressive. That was impressive. Yeah, if they could figure it out there, who do they got this their coach? They still got Billy Donovan?
They do.
I think Billy Donovan's a good coach. I think he's the right guy for the job, but that Chicago organization's a mess. They're a mess. I will say they're a lot more competitive than what they used to be. Seeing them as a 9, if you're a Chicago fan, should give you a little bit of hope because I'm used to seeing them in the last handful of years, really since Thibodeau got fired. They're down here in like the 13, 14, 15 range. Now they're back up to 9. I mean, that's great. I mean, playing worthy, but again, lose the record. If they maybe, I don't know if they're in a similar situation as Indiana. If they started out better, maybe they would be more of in the conversation of not really a play-in, but more locked in. I don't know, but
because the last couple of years the Bulls have been they've been terrible. They start off terrible and then they slowly come together and then they make a push for the play-in thing, and either they get eliminated in the play-in or they win the play-in and get eliminated in the first round.
sounds about right, unfortunately.
So it's like they need to make a decision. Like, if you're going to go for it, you got to
Be
sign
good.
people.
Actually, be good.
Yeah. But if you're going to tank, don't make the play-in.
Who's the owner of the Bulls?
Jerry Reinsdorf.
And who's the owner of the White Sox?
Jerry Reinsdorf.
Oh, cool. Next subject.
Before
and who's the owner of the Bears? Oh, not Reinsdorf. Sorry.
No. Before we move past the NBA, what did you think of the LeBron conversation with Pat McAfee this week?
You know, I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. I listened to maybe about the first 10 to 12 minutes. That interview made me actually not hate him.
You made a little bit of respect him, just a little bit.
A little bit more. I still can't stand him because he's a whiny little tool when he's got the uniform on.
Mm-hmm.
Him kind of breaking down like what was going on in his mind 25 years ago when he was first getting in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. And then going through the decision cycle and all that stuff.
Yeah. Him going through basically his whole career and just being real about it. Being unfiltered. I think it's great. I thought, and McAfee has really, with the help of his crew, he's really developed into a really good interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think it helps with him being a former athlete of the right questions to ask. And I thought the LeBron interview was great. I mean,
the stuff that he talked about with him and Stephen A. Smith to me was very, very interesting.
Stephen A. just needs to.
Stephen A. needs to get his ass whooped. No. Sorry for that, but he needs to get his butt kicked.
He just needs to go away.
Because he tried calling out LeBron after that whole conversation on First Take and was like, "Oh, you didn't attend Kobe's funeral and blah 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 and this and this," and then it's like, but you just need to get punched in the face. And if I'm LeBron, if I ever see him at the courtside again, I'd punch him in the face. Just be like,
and here's the thing, right? I think Steven's just jealous that McAfee's better than him.
I could see it.
He's an old ass man jealous of a 40-year-old. I'm sorry, you're 60. Get over yourself. I thought 60-year-olds didn't care. Am I wrong? Like you look at some of the older people in our people older than us, Mike. Their give a crap meter is at like 0.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of people need to be. They need to have a give a crap meter.
Yep.
But there are some people that just love the drama. Stephen A. I hate to say it, loves the drama. But, it's interesting. Great interview. If you guys haven't listened to it, I think y'all
highly
should
recommend it. Yeah.
I never thought I would say anything positive about LeBron James, but here we are. Still.
Oh yeah. I agree.
Now, granted, what he's been able to do his entire career is impressive. Don't get me wrong. But what MJ and what Wilt were able to do in a shorter career, to me, stands out a little more. Domination was just there from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to LeBron, he had to leave Cleveland twice.
Twice, yep. I mean, at least in that time that he came back, he won a title with them. So I mean, I give him credit.
He did. But the thing is with me, it's just like, and this is what sucks about team ownership. The owners are not loyal to the players, and so therefore the players are not loyal to the owners, and that's why you do not see any more players starting their career with one team and ending their career with the same team, and not breaking that up.
No.
It is what it is, but it's unfortunate that you don't see it in today's athletics.
Yeah.
I thought, like, for example, Paul George was going to be a lifer. I thought he was going to be a pacer for life. Work out. No. I think the last one that we would have had would have been Danny Granger, but he got hurt. So I understand his decision of, like, maybe trying to play for a. I understand.
Well, that's what I thought in Portland too. I thought Marcus Aldridge was going to be a lifer in Portland. I thought Damian Lillard was going to be a lifer there, and too, especially after Brandon Roy and Greg Oden. Both of those guys had injuries that ended their career.
Yeah, it's interesting. Portland, I keep forgetting that they exist. I ain't gonna lie. I forget that the Trailblazers are in Portland.
I mean, you can. Speaking of what we talked about earlier, that's another team. Was like the league can be better if Portland's good. Because when Portland's good, the league's better as a whole.
Yeah, because they used to be pretty good. What I think we were all robbed of, Domantas Sabonis, his father, if he wasn't stuck in the USSR his entire life, he got drafted by the Trailblazers in the 70s.
Yeah.
He didn't join the Trailblazers until late 80s because of the USSR stuff. And seeing his dad play, I don't know if you've seen highlights on YouTube. You need to go. That is the best passing center I think I've ever seen. And his son's just a little more athletic version of his father.
Yeah.
He has a little bit more of a three-point game than his dad had. But if you think about it, centers didn't really have a three-point shot. They went to about the elbow, and that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular time, when the mid-range was still used. Now it's either dunk, layup, or three. I mean, very rarely you see a guy with a floater like Kobe or LeBron just like the mid-range shot.
Yeah, the mid-range game's completely gone. And I would even argue, too, when the Sacramento Kings are good, the league is better, too. So if you think about the Kings when they had Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, Chris Webber, like those guys, that team was good.
Who was they had? A low guard, number 55. Jackson, I think.
Kittle. I think it was a Kittle or something.
Something like that. He was also called White Chocolate.
Oh, that's Mike. Wasn't that Mike? Oh, Jason Williams.
Jason Williams. There we go. I couldn't think of the guy's name. Yeah,
he left Sacramento and went to Orlando for a while when Orlando was good in the mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think he played with Dwight Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I think he played with Dwight Howard.
Yeah, it was Howard, Rashard Lewis, Turkoglu, Williams, and
Orlando is another one of those teams. To be fair, like we talked about earlier, when they're playing good,
the league's good.
It's good.
Oh yeah. You want to shift gears to hockey now? Can I touch about that?
Yeah, I'll let you talk because I don't know nothing about hockey. So continue.
So we're talking, flipping gears to hockey now. Just a little bit of news from the Blackhawks' perspective. They signed Sam Rensel and Oliver Moore to 3-year entry-level contracts. These are two big pieces that the Hawks drafted a couple years ago. So these are two big pieces for the future. That's going to give the NHL team a boost, and which help give Connor Bedard some help from younger talent. These guys are really highly ranked in the prospect.
Are they not playing at the NHL level like Bernard, or are they?
No, they've been in college hockey at Minnesota.
Oh, those guys.
Yes.
I didn't know that you could still draft players while they're still in college.
You can.
Huh. I'd be like, In the NFL, you drafted freaking Arch Miller, and he hadn't even played a game at Texas yet.
right? So
Well,
those guys will be debuting tomorrow against the Utah Hockey Club. So that will be very interesting to see how those guys are going to do. Hawks obviously are not in playoff contention, and the Hawks are in a position where they could get the first overall pick again, or they could get the 2, or they could get the 3. It just depends on how the lottery is going to fall. But
I think the NFL should think about the lottery.
it'd be interesting.
We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, the Hawks are slowly starting to incorporate guys from the farm system up to the big teams. So we'll see. We'll give them 7 games to work with, 8 games to work with, a couple weeks left. We'll see what happens. It's kind of just
Or
throw
do
them
you
out
think,
there, see what they can do.
like next year, do you think there might be a playoff contender? Maybe not.
If everything goes well, they sign some good free agents, they sign a good head coach, and everything with these prospects pan out, I could see him being in playoff contention next year.
Who owns
Maybe
Blackhawks?
Rocky Wirtz' family.
I thought you were about to say Jerry Reinsdorf.
Nope. No, not Jerry Reinsdorf. So that'd be
I'm sorry.
that will be very interesting to see tomorrow, especially for the
Yeah.
Hawks. So, looking at kind of the divisions as a whole, there's a tight race in the Atlantic Division between Florida, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. They're separated by 1 point each, and Tampa Bay and Toronto are tied for the lead in the Atlantic. So that division race is going to go down to the last couple of weeks between 3 teams.
That makes sense to me because I don't understand the points versus record. That doesn't. Why do they do it by a point system and not record like every other sports league in America?
You get it's how the NHL's always done it. You get I think you get 3 points for a win, and then you get one for a tie going into overtime and shootout, and then whoever wins that gets an extra point. It's
Sounds confusing as hell to me, but okay.
It's the thing hockey's always done, and they won't change that at some point, but who knows? Looking in the Metropolitan Division, the Caps have that division wrapped up, and Ovechkin is getting closer and closer to breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record too. That's a big thing to watch down the stretch as well. If you're watching for that wild card race, Ottawa and Columbus are the 2 teams that are in, but Columbus is tied with Montreal and New York Rangers for the final spot. The Islanders are a point back, and Detroit's 2 points back. So there's about 4 or 5 teams real close together coming down the stretch for that 2 wild card spots. In the Western Conference in the Central Division, Winnipeg has that division wrapped up. In the Pacific, the Vegas Golden Knights, they have basically that wrapped up. And as we look at the wild card in the West, Minnesota and St. Louis are tied at 87 points apiece for the top seed in the wild card race. Vancouver's 6 points back. Calgary's about 8 to 9 points back. So the wild cards in the West is basically shaping up just to be between St. Louis and Minnesota. Vancouver 6 points back. It's going to be very hard for them to make a move, but I mean, it could still happen. But the Eastern Conference is where most of the playoff races are going to be going on the last couple weeks.
Kind of sounds like the NBA in that regard. The Eastern Conference is kind of pretty much locked up, where the Western Conference is a little more chaotic. It's kind of like flip-flop for the NHL.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
So, what about Major League Baseball?
Yeah, baseball. I know
Started
AJ
up this
Capola.
week.
AJ Capola is going to love the baseball topic, but yes, opening day was on Thursday. My White Sox got the opening day dub and an 8-1 thrashing of the Angels.
Oh, you found a team that's worse than you?
Yeah, we found a team that's worse than us. So White Sox.
And you have a winning record for the first time since what, 2023 or something?
We were over 500 for the first time since 2023.
Did you lose the other two?
We lost today. We didn't play yesterday because after opening day, everybody takes a day off for the most part. Don't ask me why. They've always done that, and it's kind of real annoying, but they always take a day after.
No, it kind of makes sense. It's kind of, I mean, you play your first full game. Because, I mean, in spring training, they have full games, right? But they're not playing their starters for all night.
No.
You're working your way into it. So it makes sense. I mean, that you do it that way.
So kind of looking as a big news and notes type of thing from opening day in general on Thursday, Tyler O'Neill for Baltimore Orioles, he he hit another home run on opening day, and Tyler O'Neill has hit it. He's hit like 3 years in a row.
Really? That's an interesting stat.
3 years in a row, he's hit a home run.
On opening day.
Yep.
That's
Actually,
kinda
sorry.
cool.
I should say I disregard that. 6 years in a row. I just read in the article now. 6 years in a row on opening day, he's hit a home run.
That's pretty cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as I don't care what team he's playing for, but it's like you know if he's your teammate, like that guy right there, yeah, he's gonna be batting 100. Cause he's gonna get a home run at some point in this game. He's gonna hit dinger. Where if you're the pitcher for the opposing team, you're like, crap,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the guy to give him a dinger.
Mm-hmm.
How do I stop?
Garrett Crochet had a pretty decent debut for the Red Sox. That was a big trade in the offseason, going from the White Sox to the Red Sox. He had a no decision, pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. So good to see that happening there for the Red Sox. They did beat Texas in 10 innings. That game went to 10 innings on Thursday.
You had to change the Sox in order to become good.
Yeah, right. Another big thing, this will be the AJ portion of the MLB talk. Devin Williams.
Suck off the Yankees. I mean, what?
Devin Williams in his Yankee debut had a save, but he loaded the bases close in the 9th inning. So the Yankees almost blew that game on Thursday. But Devin Williams, he got a save in his Yankees debut. Former Yankee Luis Severino in his Oakland A's debut had 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 6 Ks, and 4 walks.
They're not the Oakland A's anymore, though.
Technically, they're still Oakland until they moved to Vegas.
I thought they weren't moving to Vegas.
They moved to Vegas in like 26, 27.
I thought they weren't moving because the stadium was too expensive. They figured that beef out?
Well, that's still to be determined. So
aren't they technically playing in Sacramento or something right now?
Yeah, they're playing in Sacramento until that Vegas situation gets filled out, but they're still under the name of Oakland.
But they're on like polar opposite sides of the state.
I know. It's Oakland. I feel bad for Oakland, man. They lost the Raiders, and then now they're losing the A's. It's
build a stadium. Build a new stadium that's not a dump.
Yeah, I mean that's why Golden State left Oakland too. It's like just build a new stadium.
And I was talking with some about the Oakland deal, and they're just at a point where they don't care about sports right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they always kind of go through that ebb and flow there for a while. Because I mean, you think about it, the Raiders have left Oakland how many times?
Couple.
But they always end up coming back to Oakland.
Uh-huh.
Now, I think this move to Las Vegas is permanent because that stadium is really freaking nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Raiders leaving Oakland.
No.
And it's unfortunate because when you think of the Raiders, you don't think of Las Vegas. You think of California,
Oakland,
or Los Angeles. You don't think of Las Vegas, but is what it is there. But yeah,
couple other things to talk about. The Dodgers. Dodgers and Detroit have had 2 really good games in this first series. Going down the 9th inning both times. Mookie Betts hit a walk-off home run last night. Bet your roommate was probably very furious about that.
I didn't hear him.
I'm surprised.
We're kind of focused on March Madness.
But yeah, Dodgers.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But.
Yeah, Dodgers and Tigers though. First 2 games of that series has probably been the best 2 games of the entire season so far. And the Yankees today hit 9 home runs, including 3 from Aaron Judge, and 3 off the first 3 pitches to the Brewers. And Nestor Cortez was pitching for the Brewers, and he was facing his former team. First 3 pitches he threw, dingers.
Oof, that's tough.
But now the whole talk is with New York today is they're using some sort of bats that are technically legal, but nobody really knows
they're in the gray
around that. They're in the gray area.
So they did cheat. The Yankees cheated. Almost like the Yankees lose. I'm just playing. But
kind of a recap from the first couple days in baseball.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to get into baseball more this year. I just don't know who to root for. All the teams around me, my area suck. They suck out loud. Let's break it down. The Reds, they suck. The Cards, they suck. Both Chicago teams suck.
Yeah.
Saying. And Detroit sucks.
Even though they made the playoffs last year.
No, yeah, they're better than the other. They're better than the rest.
I mean, you could root for Cleveland because Cleveland's won the division.
Yeah, they don't suck as bad. They don't suck out loud as much. But yeah, so I don't know. I've always kind of been a Reds guy, but I don't know. I just can't really get into baseball. I don't know what it is. I try. But yeah, so that's NHL news or NHL news. That's sports ball news. I don't even know what sport we're talking about now.
MLB.
Yeah, that one. So I guess that just leaves us with March Madness, right?
That, and we can talk about NASCAR a little bit more because we talked about IndyCar and we still have the Formula One news to talk about. I mean, we talked about it, but I don't know if you want to.
Well, let's talk about Red Bull having two teams and switching drivers. Go ahead.
So Yuki Tsunoda is going to be swapping over to the actual Red Bull team next week in Japan. When they go to Japan. And Liam Lawson is going to get shafted back to Racing Bulls. And Liam Lawson, I mean, I get why, but it's like it's two races, and the kids never raced at those two tracks. Like, give the kid a chance. But no, they're just gonna.
I was talking to Mike about this, Robinson, not you. But it seems like to me, I kind of noticed this with Formula One. Formula One, your job security compared to like NASCAR or IndyCar is significantly less.
No.
Like, if you don't perform right away, you're going back to F2.
Well, and it's not fair for any of the Red Bull guys, too. You're getting compared to Max Verstappen. I mean, Checo got
Max is getting all the stuff, right? Where the second Red Bull car hasn't been competitive in 2 years. Because if you look at it, Checo didn't run well last year. He put this kid in there that doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. To be fair, I know he was fast at other places, but like in a Formula One car, he don't know his ass from a hole in the ground.
No.
So
And I felt like too they shafted out Alex Albon because Albon to me during the COVID year in 2020 was actually pretty decent in that second Red Bull car.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Red Bull. Like, even when Vettel was winning all of his championships, was their second car even competitive?
Well, he wasn't any teammates with Mark Webber for a while.
Was he? I don't know.
I think it was him and Mark Webber were Bull.
Were they? Were they good? Were they both up front?
I know Vettel won a lot of championships, and I know Webber won a few races.
So that's the thing. And I feel like that's the way it is with every Formula One team, right? They have the car. And the second car is just, you're a test dummy. It's like the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports, pre-Kyle Larson. Casey Kane was a test dummy his last couple years in the Hendrick car. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I just don't think he had it in. If you listened to the Dale Jr. download in the last month or so. I don't think he necessarily had it.
Nope.
But it's interesting. But anyways, yeah, no, Red Bull needs to get their act together for sure. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want both cars to be good. Like, you would want that in every other form of motorsports, but Formula One is just weird. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't you want both of your cars to be up front as a team owner?
Yeah.
Like, am I making too much sense here? Somebody help me out. Chat, help me out. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Anyways, but yeah, so that's an interesting move there. And they're going to Japan, you said, this week, right?
Yep. Suzuka next week.
And Suzuka. NASCAR racer back in the 90s?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Same track. Cool. Same course? No, probably a different course version of Suzuka.
It might be a different one compared to what NASCAR
probably
did.
The full course. I think when NASCAR was there, they only did a partial version, probably. Anyways, okay. Well, that's good. Japan here next week. Should be a good race. I'm getting into Formula One a little more. I don't think I necessarily have a favorite driver or a favorite team.
I mean, McLaren's been off to a hot start, and then Lewis Hamilton won the sprint race last week in China. So I mean, Ferrari and McLaren are looking like they can compete with Red Bull this year.
Ferrari, if they can figure out a strategy for a full-length Formula One race, they would be so good. But they don't know strategy from a hole in the ground. Again,
No.
Their strategists don't know their ass from a hole in there. One stinks, one doesn't. Figure it out. Anyways, yeah, Ferrari, if they could just get their crap together, I think they would win a championship with Lewis. I really do. I think they could. Or with, do they still have Leclerc?
Yep.
Yeah, or Charles Leclerc. Either way. He's a smooth operated guy, right?
Nope, that's Carlos Sainz.
Oh, that was Sainz. Well, who's he drive for? Does he drive for anybody still?
He drives for Williams.
That's right. Yep, interesting stuff.
Martinsville's been a crap show.
Martinsville. The race was pretty good last night. I know people were kind of hating on that race. I thought it was pretty good.
Well, you tell me. You the one that watched it mostly, because I did not watch it.
I watched it. Yeah, it had its couple of cautions, but that Martinsville, for the trucks, if you're going to have those stages, the race needs to be 50 laps longer. Personally, I think you need to make the truck race at Martinsville 250 laps for both fall and spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the Xfinity Series, they're 250 laps, right?
Yes.
Make that race 300 laps. I think you need more laps for both series, both lower divisions, for it to play out a little better. I know the Xfinity race was a crapshoot day, so maybe you don't want to extend the race another 50 laps, but the truck race last night I thought was pretty good. I thought there for a while Majeski was going to win it. Hayden Honeycutt was up front there for a while. They both took each other out late in that race. That's how Hemrick was able to get up toward the front. It was him and Akram battling side by side cleanly, I might add, of his teammates for last 5 out of the last 7 laps, and Hemrick was able to pass Akram and pull away. Good night for McAnally Himmelgarn Racing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they finished 1-2, and I think all 4 trucks finished in the top 20. So, good night for them. Jack Wood is a bust. Needs to get out of that truck, but, here we are. But, no, I thought the race was pretty good overall. Lane Riggs, I thought was going to be up there, but he couldn't, he got taken out. And another thing, again, just like last year, and just wasn't...
He had some interesting comments post-race. I did see that this morning. He had interesting comments where he says he likes Martinsville, but he says at the national level he hates it just because nobody has any respect. And you just get run over.
Well, and if you go back and you watch Kyle Petty with Kevin Harvick this week, if you think about it, kids, and he's right about this, kids listen. And they absorb that crap like a sponge, right? To what the adults are saying. Here's what I mean by that. 12, 13-year-old kid, when they're first getting into a stock car and they hear Tony Stewart saying, "I'll wreck your mom to win a championship,"
they're going to lean on that.
They're going to lean on that, and they're going to take that very literal. So you know what they're going to do the next time they get into a race car? They're going to wreck you to win a championship. And that's the thing that Kyle Petty, I think, was right about. What does Kyle Petty have to do with this? Well, you brought up the topic of respect, so I'm going to bring it up. All right. Kyle Petty was saying that the kids these days that are coming up, have no respect.
No.
They are not taught at 12, 13, 14 years old, when they're first getting into full-body cars, respect. They just aren't anymore. You think about it, you go back into the 80s, all the way up until about 2005, we'll say. You saw a lot of guys, the respect level at the national series and the top 3 series was different. You had guys that were racing each other with respect because, especially in the 70s and 80s, you could kill a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. You could kill a guy for your actions on the racetrack.
Yeah.
So you didn't see drivers getting close with other drivers, but as far as personally. Excuse me. But as far as on the racetrack, everybody race each other with respect. You don't see it in Cup anymore. You don't see it in Xfinity. You definitely don't see it in the Truck Series.
No. Now,
I will say, the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series kind of flip-flopped this week as far as lack of respect.
Yep.
And you don't see it in ARCA. I'm looking at you, Dean Thompson, at freaking Mid-Ohio a couple years ago. Alright, so there's no respect in stock car racing. I think you still see it a lot more. Now, I could be way out of bounds on this, but it seems like in the late model division, there's a lot more respect. Now, it's not as much as it used to be, but there's more respect in the lower divisions than at the national divisions.
Well, and it's like you don't
Lane
see
Riggs
like,
is right about that. He's on point.
and you don't see guys like Kyle Busch or Denny Hamlin or any of those guys that are part of like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Mark Martin era. They don't sit the young guys down and they don't talk to the young guys. It's just like, well, if you got taught that way, those guys talk to you and be like, you can't be that aggressive around us. Like that's no. But it's like, why don't you pass that on? Why don't you try? Why don't you even try? Just try.
So funny thing you mentioned that. So I don't know how you probably didn't watch the track race at all, did you, last night? Or did you?
I watched the highlights. That's about it.
Okay. So Joey Logano was talking about this after the race, or maybe during the race, I can't remember. But he was saying something along the lines of, because I think either Jamie Little brought it up, or maybe it was Michael Waltrip brought it up, talking to the young drivers and sitting them down. And it was like, get out of my way? He's like, I don't know what I would say to the young guys. Like, get out of my way and don't mess up. He's like, I don't talk to the young drivers. It's not something I do.
Well, and Joey's the one that really started being real aggressive. I mean, you think about it, he moved Mark Martin out of the way at Pocono, and that was like a cardinal sin.
Well, and then he wrecked Kenseth at Kansas.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things. Joey. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's a little bit of truth to what I'm saying. It's not the full truth, but I think it's like halfway there. Joey Logano was the one that really started all of this.
Oh, it was.
So you think about it. Do you remember the Toyota Shootout or All-Star Challenge or All-Star
Yes, I
Showdown
do.
they had?
Yep.
Back in the K&N days on Speed Channel back in the day?
In January? Yep, I do.
You remember when him and Matt Kobaluk got together?
It was, yeah, those two, and I think was Peyton Sellers too, was in that?
Or maybe it was Peyton. I think it was Logano and Peyton Sellers got together. Logano crossed the line first, but because of his rough driving, he got disqualified and handed the win to Matt Kobaluk. Or something like that. Those three drivers were involved. Maybe Peyton Sellers got the win. I can't remember the details. But if you think about it, because Logano was around, 18, 19, 20 years old at the time, he kind of started that crap. It started in that moment. I think people didn't want to admit it or say it out loud. They didn't want to say the quiet part out loud, like I like to say the quiet part out loud. But that really started the stuff that you're seeing at the national level today. If you think about it. The way that he drove that race and wrecked that guy, that's why I think, I can't believe I'm bringing this up. Richmond last year with Dylan, yes, Dale Earnhardt would have done the same thing in the 90s. But here's what's different.
You want to go from 5 car lengths back?
That part. Because when he moved Terry Labonte at Bristol, the second time, I'm not talking about the 95 race, I'm talking about the 99 race.
Yep.
Where the rattle your cage comment came out.
Yep.
He wasn't sending it from 6 car lengths back.
No.
He was right on his bumper. Now, to be fair, Terry didn't make it easy on himself coming out of turn 4, coming to take the white flag where he sideswiped the bull, and then he got the horns in the next corner.
Yep.
I'm just saying, that's what happened. But what happened there, that was different. That was different. What Dale Sr. did was different from what Austin Dillon did to Joey Logano. Or was it? It was Logano. It was Logano. Because Dillon was like 3 or 4 or 5 car lengths back. Now, if Ricky Stenhouse didn't decide to be a brick shithouse at the end of that race, Austin Dillon had that win going away.
Yeah.
Had that win going away. He had Denny Hamlin pulled by 3 seconds.
Yep.
The King of Richmond. He had the King of Richmond pulled by 3 seconds.
Yep.
He won that race. Now, he won the race, but in an entirely different fashion.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the problem. I think, NASCAR had to do something, but at the same time, it's like, the way the sport is now, there's no respect because you put so much pressure on these guys with winning these stages, winning these races. The overall points don't freaking matter.
No, it's
They
all that
don't.
matters. All that matters is making the next round of the playoffs and getting
That's
that
it.
last. Yeah.
That's it. It's all about getting to that championship four. It's all about getting to Phoenix or Homestead or Las Vegas or California or New Mexico. I don't know, wherever the hell they're going to have the championship race at.
Well,
But
I would even say too, if you think about it in that era too, you have Brad Keselowski. I mean, even though Brad's matured a lot better, but you remember Brad's first couple years, he flipped Carl Edwards over at Talladega for his first win.
hold on.
But he wouldn't go below the yellow line. That's a
Exactly
fair
right.
point.
He followed the
But hold
NASCAR
on.
rulebook. Followed the
But then
NASCAR rulebook. That was a racing incident. Continue.
And then you had Carl and him in Atlanta when he put Carl on the wall, and then Carl retaliated.
Carl and him
then,
at Gateway.
And then you had the 2012 championship battle between him and Johnson, and people weren't happy how Brad raced at Texas that year. And then he was in the post race conference at Phoenix saying, "I got called out for saying I had a death wish
Well,
because nobody liked how Brad
Jeff Gordon
raced."
was a dumbass for spinning out Clint Boyer for literally a racing incident. Now, I get it. Jeff was probably still pissed about what happened in Martinsville back that March. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Jeffrey. As a lifelong fan of your ass, you would have done the same damn thing. You would have done the same damn thing.
Yeah, my point is a lot of people in the field were not happy how Brad raced that Texas race because you remember how aggressive that Texas finish was in 2012 with Jimmy Johnson. Not talking 14, I'm talking 12.
Well, 14 there was a hole. Okay, there was a hole.
There was. Now looking back on it, yes.
There was a hole. You got the hole. Okay. In 2012, I really don't remember that race, to be honest. Oh, was that the race where he comes sideways across the finish line? Didn't he door Johnson on like the white flag to take the win or something?
It was about 4 or 5 laps to go, and they were side swiping each other.
Was it for the lead or like in the top 5 or whatever?
Nope, it was for the lead because Johnson did up passing Keselowski for the win because Brad was on 2 tires trying to be as aggressive as he could to stay in front of Jimmy.
That's right. I for a second I didn't remember this at all, but now I remember. See, here's the thing though. When you're in a tight championship battle like that, with the guy who's won 5 out of the last 6,
well, you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. I mean,
but I'm just, yeah.
No, I get it because Brad was very aggressive in those. But Brad, to an extent, after he had a similar talking to like Ross Chastain had, he just had a big chip on his shoulder. It's not a chip; it's a boulder. It's not even a boulder; it's a mountain. Just based on the background that he came from. Because Brad and Denny and Carl, in my opinion, because they all kind of came in around the same time. I know there were a few apart. But those 3 gentlemen right there, in my opinion, are really the last 3 dudes outside of Ross to have earned tooth and nail for everything that they got. And they just happen to get noticed by one of the big 3, or one of the big 4 teams at the time. Carl with Roush, Denny Hamlin with Gibbs, which, by the way, is supposed to go to DEI. And Brad with Hendrick / Junior / Penske.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, racing, there's no respecting. Now, I think if you went back to the chase, like the old format where you had the 10 guys, and the only thing you had was a one-time reset at the beginning of the chase. Maybe you get some of that respect back a little bit. If you took the stages now, or hear me out. I know the NASCAR races. If you want to have stages and award bonus points throughout the race, fine. I'm okay with that. But why are we stopping the race? Why are we stopping the race? You don't have an answer, do you? Neither do I. Why are we stopping the race?
According to 2017, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna award points, and then TV's gonna go to commercial, and blah blah blah. It's like, okay.
No. You just want to bunch the field up and get rid of your phantom debris cautions. Oh, did I just pull Carl Edwards there and say that out loud? I said the quiet part out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You want to schedule your phantom debris cautions now and award points for it. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
I get it that it's sport and entertainment, and sometimes
Well,
entertainment is higher than sport.
but we're leaning more entertainment wise now, and it's getting to a point now.
Yeah, we're at a tipping point. If you want to go
Oh,
watch actual racing, you go watch the Cars Tour, or you go watch dirt racing.
and speaking of the entertainment thing, speaking on the Xfinity race today, they went the first stage. They went 54 laps without a caution, and then since lap 54 on, they had 12 cautions in that race. And that third stage, they couldn't even go 5 laps without wrecking somebody. And
Huh.
then at the
Sounds like
finish,
the INRS.
yeah, and then at the finish of that race, I mean Taylor Gray and Sammy Smith, they bumped each other a couple times in the late couple restarts, and Sammy
What
Smith was like,
Junior
"Oh,
feels about that?
I wonder that too." And then
Seriously.
Sammy Smith was like, "Oh, yeah, he's flipping me off under yellow," and like he would have done the same thing. So he goes, "I'm not proud of it," but Sammy Smith is 5 car lengths back and just sends it in there and just wipes Taylor Gray right out. And
Kind of
then
like what I did to Caleb. No, I'm just kidding.
off of 4, it's Sammy Smith is banging into his teammate Allgaier. They're wrecking, and Austin Hill sneaks through and wins. And then there's like 10, 15 other cars that just they're full on the gas, turning left, wrecking into people. It's just like it was just a crap show. This is like that's I would expect that for like the last race of that, and I would expect it for like the last race in November for a playoff cut race at Martinsville. I would expect that, but not for a spring race.
Yeah. No, the racing at Martinsville it's not. I should have said this last night. I take what he said with a grain of salt, where he talks about beating and banging and old school NASCAR racing. Come to the right place when you go watch a race at Martinsville. I'm sorry, they weren't wrecking like that at Martinsville back in the day.
No.
They just, they weren't. NASCAR needs to do something, and I think if they get rid of the playoff system, but they won't because they know how much entertainment value is in that. But nobody's really watching the playoffs anyway. If you go look at the ratings for NASCAR from September onward, right after the Southern 500, ratings
I mean,
continue to go down.
you're probably your highest rating races in the playoffs is probably the Roval Talladega. That's probably like your highest too. Bristol Night Race, that'd be a third one.
Those are like crown jewels still, right? You know what I would love to see one year? Bring back the Oval at Charlotte and make it the season finale.
I saw somebody yesterday, a YouTuber that I follow in the NASCAR community, and he had a rumor of the Roval is going away after this year, and they're going back to the Oval next year.
Oh yeah, it's the same rumor we heard last year.
But speaking of the Cup Series, a little bit of a preview for tomorrow. Looking at the starting lineup for tomorrow, we have Christopher Bell on the pole, Chase Elliott starting second, Alex Bowman third, Kyle Larson fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth, Chris Buescher sixth, Logano seventh, Bubba Wallace eighth, Tyler Reddick ninth, and William Byron rounding out your top 10. So that's your top 10 for tomorrow's race.
I know we talked about this before we went live. Give me Alex Bowman. He's gone back into the wind just like Austin Hill. I want that same energy.
There you go.
I want that same energy when Bowman backs into a win and people are upset about Austin Hill backing into his wins.
So we'll see if the Cup guys, since most of them were watching the Xfinity race and calling the Xfinity race out on, they were calling the Xfinity race on social media today. We'll see if the Cup race is any better tomorrow.
I doubt it will be.
It probably won't be.
Yeah, actually.
We'll see. Yeah, Martinsville, folks. Martinsville.
Yeah, Martinsville. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely room for. Well, we got one more thing to talk about. By the way, for our little fantasy pool thingy that we're doing. Well,
yeah. Okay, I'll get you down.
Write it down. All right, cool. So we have got, last but not least, we are going to be talking about men's bracket challenge and the women's bracket challenge. There we go. You can still see our faces, and I'm going to. Okay. Awesome. Kind of get this. Let's do this here. Oops.
I will say, while you're fixing that up, I have not watched a single women's game.
Oh, I
Sorry,
haven't either.
sorry. I'm just saying. Oh,
It's okay. It's okay. So, here's what we got going on here, folks. I haven't watched a single women's game either. But we're going to talk about the men's bracket, because that's more important. So, we're going to look at my bracket, because that's what I had pulled up first. My percentage is 71.4%. This is actually one of my best brackets ever, folks, going into going into Final Four weekend. My bracket was completely busted when who was that beat? Oh yeah, when Arkansas beat St. John in the round of 32.
yeah.
So my bracket was completely busted at that point because I had St. John going all the way to the championship game. I also had Ole Miss going to the Final Four, and they lost to Michigan State last night.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was a really good.
That was a barn burner of a game.
Yep.
So, looking at it here, Duke, Arizona today. I did have Arizona going that far. Duke won. I did have Auburn and Michigan going this far, but I had Auburn winning. The only thing that I didn't have was Michigan State because I had Ole Miss. So, and then I had Ole Miss over Auburn. So that's going to be a good game tomorrow at 5:05 between Auburn and Michigan State of who's going to the Final Four. I think that's probably going to be one of the best matchups of the tournament, to be quite honest. I had Wisconsin going all the way to the Elite Eight, but losing to Alabama. Well, they lost to BYU last week.
Yes, they did.
And BYU got destroyed by the Crimson Tide. Or
High
Tide!
And Alabama set a record for most 3-pointers in a
they did.
NCAA tournament game.
And the reason why I had Wisconsin going as far as they did was because the last couple of games that they had, especially through the Big Ten tournament, how they went off from the 3-point line. That's why I had them going as far as I did. Was because of that. Thank God that Houston beat Purdue last night.
That was wild.
I did have Purdue going to the Elite Eight and losing, or Sweet 16 and losing. However, their opponent was supposed to be Clemson, not McNeese.
Yep. I lost that game too. I had Clemson.
No, I did have Kentucky over Illinois, so I did predict that portion of the bracket right. And I had Tennessee beating Kentucky. I just didn't think they were going to go to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I had Tennessee beating Kentucky too, because one, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, and two, Kentucky has a lot of injuries, but I still give that team a lot of credit for going as far as they did.
Oh, here's the Kentucky fan giving me the excuses of why they brought back nothing. So, but yes, that was a thing that happened. And then Texas Tech over Arkansas. I didn't think it was going to happen. But congratulations to Texas Tech for going to the Elite Eight, but losing to Florida.
Can we say Calipari and that team choked it? They were up 16.
You want to do that again? You're on screen again. Go ahead.
Arkansas was up 16 points and choked it.
Yeah. They did choke it. It's fine. We could say it.
It's great. I love it. I'm so petty. It's great.
It's fine. That is what it is. So, but yeah. So really, my Final Four is pretty much intact, except for St. John's. I did have Florida going to the Final Four. I'm curious to see. Looks like Duke is most likely probably going to.
Yeah,
there's still 2:15 left in the first half, I think, or
yes,
might be halftime by now. So I do have Duke winning this game, and then I've got Houston and Tennessee tomorrow, but I have Houston over Tennessee. reason why people are like, you're an IU fan. Why would you want Kelvin Sampson to do good? Or Kelvin Sampson to do good?
How about that play though? That inbound play last night. What a draw up.
It's a great play. Great play. Now people are saying that the announcers last night, the analysts after the game, were disappointed they didn't talk about no call. Here's the thing: it's basketball. It's humans reffing the game. This is gonna happen until they get AI doing it. Sorry, it is what it is. Calls are gonna get missed. But I don't want AI taking over the sport. I really don't, because we need human factor. Otherwise, the AI is going to be ejecting a lot of coaches and a lot of players if they get to AI at that point.
Yeah. My Final Four is intact. I had
Oh
Auburn
yes,
making
let's
the
go.
final.
Let's go to your bracket here, and
I have 780 points.
here he is.
I have 780 points total. That's probably one of my better
780 points
brackets.
total. Your bracket, 78.6%. That's probably what?
It's
Do you
probably
average that? Is that what you get every year?
No,
Are you always this good?
I have not gotten that close. Most times I average about 60 to 55%. So I'm actually doing a lot better this year than have in previous years.
All right.
Lost out on St. John's,
Yep, you lost out on St. John's too.
but I have Duke still in it. Houston.
We had a similar Final Four because you had Florida as well, and you had Duke and Houston. So 3 out of our 4 Final Fours right there. You have Duke winning it all, while I have Houston winning it all.
Yep.
So, and the reason why, again, I didn't really say this. The reason why I have Houston winning it all, Houston has been really close the last 2 or 3 years, and I think it's about time that they knock the door in. And
part of me wanted to choose Houston, but I know how deep they can get. But it seems like something always happens, and they either slip up or choke it. And I thought last night was going to be the game where they get that far, but then they choke it.
No, this Houston team's built different.
It's different than the other ones.
Because normally
yes.
the game that they would because I've watched them a few times this year. Normally the games they would lose, like in the last couple of years, this year they've been winning those games. So, and it proved last night. And plus, Purdue just doesn't have the size that Houston has, especially late in the ball game. So
I feel like overall the tournament's been pretty good. I'm just surprised there hasn't been a lot more upsets than normal, because it seems like this year's been kind of set in kind of. There's been a couple, don't get me wrong, but then
yeah,
there's also times where
I was saying upsets. What are you talking about? Like, there have been plenty of upsets. I got my upsets right,
you did.
but a lot of them are kind of more the predictable 8 and 9 games, 7, 10 games.
Yeah.
The one that really shocked me was McNeese. I wasn't expecting them to be Clemson, but. So yeah, that is Campizio's Final Four. Let's look at good old Robinson. Ha! 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 Hold on. Oh, we're not in this one. Never mind. I was about to share my screen. So Robinson is at a 20.5%.
Oh my goodness.
He's got 530 points. He didn't pick for a lot.
This man did. This man. We'll just put it, since we're putting him on blast. He did not fill out a women's bracket either, folks.
Just saying. He didn't fill out a women's bracket, so this is me putting him on blast here. So he had Kansas going all the way to the Final Four. We saw how that turned out. The only Final Four pick that he has right is Florida. But I think everybody's had Florida right. Everybody picked Florida. He has Tennessee and Duke on his side of the bracket, which I think he'll get half of that right.
Yeah.
I just don't see losing to Tennessee tomorrow. Could be wrong, but yeah. So 20.8% or 20.5%. And then of course he has Tennessee winning it all, and the tiebreaker for how many total points scored in the championship game, 98. That's Robinson. I can't remember what yours was. I think yours was
100, yeah.
And I picked kind of you were kind of the middle. I think I picked like 150.
You wanna show the viewers our women's Final Four, since we haven't really watched any of those games?
Yes, we've got the women's Final Four. My bracket is a lot like Mike Robinson's. Completely busted, 28.4%, 610 points, max of 1050. I had Notre Dame winning it. Boy, was I wrong. So, the Elite Eight matchups: Duke, South Carolina, UCLA, LSU. Those will be tomorrow at 1 and 3, respectively. And then you've got Texas TCU, which I had Texas actually going this far in the Elite Eight, enough. And then I've got UConn. That matchup was decided. I actually had
I think UConn
Iowa
won
going to the Sweet 16, but they lost to Oklahoma by a lot. So it was UConn and Oklahoma to the other day. UConn won 82-59. This game here, USC Kansas State is ongoing. They're in the fourth quarter. USC is up 63-59. But I have USC and UCLA going final. So on that side of the bracket in Tampa, and then I had Notre Dame and for the other side of the Final Four, which isn't going to happen. But that's okay. It happens. So, and I had 101 points for tiebreaker. You, sir, have an 80.3% pick'em. And you haven't watched a single game. That's really good. You have South Carolina winning it all.
Mm-hmm.
They play Duke tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Your Final Four was UCLA, UConn, South Carolina, Notre Dame.
I was wrong about Notre Dame.
We both were wrong about Notre Dame. And your total points scored in the championship was 90. Yeah, your bracket is spot on, if I say so myself. The only thing that you got wrong was you did have LSU and NC State in the Sweet 16. You just picked the wrong team. You picked LSU instead of NC State.
Yeah, of course.
But then Robinson's bracket wasn't finalized. So
no, it was not.
There we are. But that is our bracketology. That's our bracket challenge for this year. We'll probably do it.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. So fun thing, Mike. You'll love this. So I'm in a couple of other bracket challenges. I'm in one with One America. I'm in one with actually my church too. And that's the same bracket that we use from our bracket challenge. Too. So I'm feeling like I'm doing pretty good. Right?
There you go.
Because normally I'm like you. I'm anywhere from I'm a little worse. I'm normally anywhere from 45 to 55%.
Yeah.
I get it half right. So the fact that I'm 70% this year, I'll take it.
Take it. It's a win. We'll take it. Dubs.
It's a win this year.
Dubs all around.
And my roommates were kind of like, man, you picked really good. I said, well, y'all think I don't do a whole lot, but I do take some time to watch some college basketball every night. This is my sport. This is my thing. Especially the Big Ten. Big Ten was a struggle this year. Just in general. The SEC outperformed us this year, for sure. I wasn't expecting the SEC to be that deep. Normally it's Big Ten that's that deep. That out of their 14 teams, whatever it is, they normally go 8, 9, 10. 10 teams. The SEC had what? 10 teams make the tournament? 12 teams make the tournament? Something like that.
Hey, they're 14.
14. Yeah.
And I normally pay attention to the SEC because Kentucky's in there, so I know a lot of ball about the SEC.
10 years ago, it was just Kentucky and
yeah, it was. But the SEC's grown and grown over those years.
Yeah, especially Alabama.
Auburn, Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's always been pretty good, though, historically. It was been pretty good at basketball.
Florida historically has been good.
Florida, especially under the Billy Donovan years. It always seemed like it was kind of Kentucky and Florida for the SEC.
Yeah. And now Tennessee's good.
Since they've gotten Rick Barnes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's getting better. Ole Miss is getting better. Mississippi State's iffy. But I mean, Mississippi State can have a team every once in a while that's really good. Texas and Oklahoma, we'll see. I think Oklahoma with Porter Moiser will be good in a couple years because Porter took Loyola deep in the NCAA tournament. So
Yeah, it's just different now. College basketball news. I can just run through it here real quick. DeVries left West Virginia and took the IU job. He's now the 31st head coach of Indiana men's basketball.
He's gonna have a clean roster to work with because Indiana has no.
Yeah, they literally have no team. It's kind of like when Cal took over Arkansas last year, and he had no team.
Or Mark Pope taking over Kentucky, no team.
Yeah, so, and that's the thing with basketball. It's a lot easier to say that you have no team because you only get like 13 players, 14 players.
Mm-hmm.
Where with football at least you have 90 some guys for the college game. So a little bit easier to say for basketball that you have no team. I think it's a good hire. He's a Midwestern guy, so I think it'll be interesting. Sean Miller took the job, left Xavier and went to Texas. Texas fired their head coach after they got rid of Chris Beard. This Terry something guy, he was an assistant for Chris Beard for a while. Before they were like, yeah, bye, Chris. And now he's going off at Ole Miss. So who's the dummy now?
Well, think about it. What's the funny thing about that Sean Miller thing? Xavier in Texas was in the play-in game, I should say, and Sean Miller goes to Texas after beating Texas. I thought that was funny.
Well, there's another thing too. He was going to get hired by Texas 2 or 3 years ago. They played in the tournament again. I think this is when Sean Miller was still in Arizona, and the athletic director really wanted to hire Sean Miller, but the Texas Terry was doing really good at the time for Texas, so he just kind of let it go. He let him go from Arizona to Xavier, but now he's got his guy. So it'll be interesting.
Just make sure you have AC working. Make sure your AC's working in Texas. Just saying.
Yeah, that's a point. That's a point. But yeah, so I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I know there's more moves out there. I think West Virginia hired a new coach.
I think didn't Iowa hire a new coach too?
Yes, they hired McCollum.
Drake coach. Yep.
They hired McCollum. Fran McCaffrey was hired at Penn University, Pennsylvania University of Pennsylvania. I don't know how it is, but he got hired at Penn, so he left. He got fired at Iowa and went over to Penn. I think his style seems to fit more of the mid majors, so
yeah,
doesn't fully shock me to say the least that he's going to basically school. Good for him though. I hope he does well. I thought he was pretty good at Iowa. It's just, Iowa, they think they're really good, but really not that good when it comes to basketball. Or really just athletics in general. Same thing with their football team. They think they should be in the national championship every year when they really aren't that good.
Tight end university.
But man, if you want to go pro, and you a tight end or you an offensive lineman, go to Iowa.
Yep.
They pump out Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. I'm just saying. They really do.
They do.
They do some good work over there at Iowa. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. Big shake up in the Big Ten for not only IU but Iowa, and I'm sure probably a couple other teams I'm forgetting about. But Will Wade, who was at McNeese, he signed somewhere. I think he went to NC State. So they're getting a good coach at NC State. So that was a good hire. Yeah, it'll be interesting how it goes from here next year. What's funny is the portal for men's basketball opened in the middle of the tournament.
Yep, opened last Monday.
And a lot of the coaches are not happy about it.
Nope.
Curtis Painter, Matt Painter, he doesn't use the portal, doesn't believe in it. We'd rather just recruit guys and do it the old-fashioned way, which I can respect. But in today's day and age, if you need to plug a hole, go to the portal. But you also shouldn't be taking the Mike Woodson approach where all you're using is the portal and nothing else. So there's a fine line. There really is. There's a fine line in what you need to do to build your basketball program. Because I do think the 4-year guys are very important.
Yeah.
I think those guys are very important, and that's how you need to build your culture. So it'll be interesting. I think what you're going to see is kind of similar to a Mark Pope situation with IU, where DeVries is kind of forcing his hand. Like if he wants to have a team, he's probably going to get 8 to 10 guys from the portal.
Yep.
That's just the reality of the situation.
Yep.
I don't know how good they'll be, but I am hoping. I did see DeVries. I did hear about him being at the boys' high school state finals today. He's been there all day. So in the state of Indiana, we only have, I think it's only 4 classes for boys basketball. So you have 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. It might be 5A at most, but I'm pretty sure it's just 4. But on the football side, you have 6. Now, personally, I've said this. Your Catholic schools, especially on the football side, like Cathedral, you know what's funny about Cathedral? You'll love this. You know what their school is? Or their mascot?
What's that?
The Fighting Irish. They have gold helmets.
Okay.
You know what their fight song is?
Notre Dame fight song? Yeah. I could see it.
I call them Notre Dame Junior is what I call them.
Just do it as a feeder program is what I would do.
Right. They got sued by Notre Dame.
I could see it.
Because they were using their helmet feature. And they were called the Fighting Irish. But I think you guys use the Fighting Irish. Like, you don't spell it with the G, correct? It's F-I-G-H-T-I-N apostrophe.
Yep.
Where Cathedral, they are the
with
Fighting
Irish.
They put the G at the end. So I think that's how they're able to get away with it. Which is interesting.
It is.
So, but, yeah, they still use their fight song. They still wear similar uniforms. I think it's funny. But I think those Catholic schools, those private schools in our state, they need to have their own conference. They just need to have their own state title.
Yep.
Because basically it's college, right? You can recruit guys, and that's what you have to do to build a program. But anyways, I digress. But we're now 38 in. Did we need to talk about anything else? I can't remember.
I think that's it.
I think we hit everything.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the Masters in golf. That's a couple weeks away. Scotty Scheffler and Mi-Woo Kim were tied for the 3rd round of the Shiners Houston Open. That's final rounds tomorrow. So, a couple weeks away from the Masters.
Had a bad weekend this weekend, didn't he? From what I heard Friday, he I don't think he even made the cut.
No, he did not.
He was having a bad weekend.
But PGA Tour after this weekend goes to San Antonio, where my buddy lives, for the Valero Open, and then it's Masters week. You get the national title game on Monday, and then Wednesday's the par 3 contest, and boom, Thursday it all starts.
And that's why Jim Nance does not do the NCAA tournament anymore, folks.
He's taking his Pat Summerall role, supposedly, is what he said.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Basketball or football and golf.
Yep. But we got.
And he was a golfer at Houston, so and I'm sure if Houston makes the Final Four, he'll still be there.
Oh yeah.
Why wouldn't he be there? That's his alma mater. Makes sense.
But we're getting into a good time of the year, folks. Early spring.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Now the Masters, is that a PGA Tour event?
Nope. You can have guys from Live come over.
So the Masters, it is truly their operation. But doesn't the PGA Tour honor that? Don't they honor that as a major?
They do.
That's interesting.
But you can have guys from Live come over, because the guys from Live can come over for the Masters, they can come over for the U.S. Open, they can come over for the British Open, and they can come over for the PGA Championship.
Interesting. Didn't the PGA Tour buy out the Live Tour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was a big talking thing.
We can have a podcast on that one. For sure. But, yeah, exciting time of year. I always enjoy watching the Masters, especially the par 3 contest. I get a kick out of watching that.
Yeah.
Par
It's a good
3
one.
contest is kind of like the PNC
Sure.
tournament. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of more of a family thing.
Yeah, and it's the last time that you get those guys have a time to like chillax and not take everything so seriously before Thursday. It's like, all right, shift gears.
2020 was a weird year for the Masters because not only was it in the fall,
It was in November.
it was in November. Yeah. But Jim Nantz worked for ESPN for half the term.
He did.
He was working for ESPN.
And
Weird to
shout
say.
shout out to CBS this year. This is the first year that they're doing this on not Friday, Saturday and Sunday only. You're getting extended live coverage on Paramount Plus from 12 Eastern to 2 o'clock Eastern. Normally, the Masters has a thing where you can't go on the air before 3 o'clock Eastern time on Thursday through Saturday, because Sunday they start a little bit earlier. But shout out to CBS and Paramount Plus giving us 2 extra hours of live coverage from the Masters. It's the most dumbest thing ever. And Thursday and Friday you can watch it on masters.com. That's great, but it's just like, come on. It's 2025, people. Come on now.
The Mike Tomlin. We do not care.
Yeah.
No, but that is pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see. So, but no, that's pretty much gonna do that for us today. Thank you very much for watching the All Star Sports Report. I'm Gary. That's Mike. We'll see you next time.
Hit the W read. Hit the W read real quick.
Oh,
Before we get out of here, hit the W read.
I had to look for it. Yes. By the way, I completely mentioned this. We are on All Star 15 TV. Thank you, AJ, for letting us crash here and trash your channel. I'm just kidding. Crash your channel. So we can have this wonderful podcast. But we do have a proud sponsor of All Star 15 TV and Warrior Enterprises. But I'm going to mention the All Star 15 T stuff because that's where we are. W Energy Drinks. They are a brand of energy drinks designed to be clean, flavorful, and focused on energy. Use code AS15TV for 10% off any order by going to their website, w.gg. Place your order today for 10% off any order. So, again, that is A for all, S for star, 15TV, AS15TV, and get 10% off. Helps the channel, helps AJ. He gets a little bit of money.
A little bit of revenue.
A little bit of revenue. We have a couple. Let's figure out how to get that money. Anyways, that's a whole another subject for another time. But thank you guys so much for watching and paying attention to us. Hour and 43 minutes today. Yes, less than 2 hours. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.
Good night, Canada.